Hi everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today I have a very special guest. It's author and my dear friend Joti Gata-Auro. She wrote this amazing book. It's her life story about dealing with a skin disease called vitiligo. And this book called Strong in the Skin I Am In. I finished it like maybe in one day because it's amazing. I couldn't stop reading. So before I talk to her, I'd like just to give you a quick introduction so that you get to know who Jyoti is. So Jyoti is a British Asian presenter and also runs her own business called Positively Diverse. In her business, she focuses on promoting better representations in the media for those with visible differences and disabilities. As I mentioned, this is her book that we're gonna discuss today. But before I started bringing her, I wanna tell you how I met Jyoti. I met Jyoti when I was 18 years old in Madrid and she was 15. We were both taking a Spanish course in Madrid, and we lost touch obviously, and we reconnected via social media. Almost 30 years later. I'm 45 now, and here we go. So without further ado, Jyoti, how are you?
Natasha, thank you. Thanks for having me join you today. It's such a pleasure. I'm
I'm
very
s-
well, thank you.
yeah, it's the pleasure is all mine. So, uh, first of all, I want to say that I really, really enjoyed your book. I think the best part for me was the raw feelings, the feelings
Yeah.
of sadness and shame, and you expressed that really well in your book, especially when the scenes where you were hiding in your room, refusing to leave the house, extremely ashamed of what's happening to you. And I was just wondering, do you think you would have felt the same, or anyone would have felt the same today? Because today there's more awareness, and there's like social media, you connect with more. Because when that happened to you, I think that was way before there was social media or anything like that, and so the sense of isolation was much greater than now. If this happened to you now in 2021, and you are now what, like, let's say 20, when you first were
Yeah.
diagnosed, would you have felt the same?
Well, this is a really good question, Natasha, because I've met so many people on my platform that have just been diagnosed and they are feeling very isolated, very afraid, very worried about their skin. It's all very new. And even though they are on social media and they have so many people to support them, they still feel very afraid. And I think it comes down to that fundamental issue of when you don't know the unknown, when you're unaware about it, you have little research on it, little awareness on it, it does become quite a worrying situation. And so I think if I had the condition and I was diagnosed now, I think, yes, I would have a certain level of anxiety. But I think when it comes to isolation, I think I would feel less isolated because there are so many people out there talking about skin conditions, visible differences, disabilities. And, I think it's becoming a little bit more normalized than it was 20 years ago.
Yeah. What if it happens to someone, let's say your daughter or your cousin,
Yeah.
or your how would
Yeah.
you deal with it versus
Well,
how your parents dealt with it?
really good question again. I think, and many people have asked me that. How do you think you would deal with it if your daughter or son got it? And I think because I've equipped them with the right tools from quite a young age with how to deal with negative remarks, negative comments. If someone says something to them, how do they then handle it in the right way, in a positive way, but a way that's not aggressive or rude? And I think that they would probably handle it much better than I was able to. Not only am I their mum, but they've been able to learn from me with how I have grown with the condition and learned to accept it. And I think that's something for a child that is it's amazing when a parent can role model these attitudes and these behaviors, and then their children pick up on this. So I would hope that they would gain that strength and that resilience to combat any negativity surrounding it. And as a mother, yes, of course, I think I would feel really upset, because I know what it's like to discover that first patch. And no matter who they've got in their life, whoever's got vitiligo, whatever role models they have, celebrities, their mom, friends, family, whenever they, obviously discover that first patch, that's going to be devastating, because it's a change to their body, and nobody likes to see change on their body.
Yeah, yeah. So your story for me has like a bigger connotation, which is the issue of the color of the somebody's skin. And there's a lot of issues related with it, and I was reading the book. There was this part that you mentioned, which also very similar in the Arab culture, is that in the Asian culture you have to be slim and fair in order to be seen as pretty. So part of me think like, what's the end game for a person with like brown skin like mine and unlike yours, and eventually being completely fair skinned? How would the society even accept you like more? You're like, fair skinned, that means you're pretty. Because I remember growing up, I always thought I was not pretty because I was darker than most of my friends. And I thought that nobody's gonna love me, nobody's gonna like me because I'm just darker, I think, compared to people in my region. So I completely understand the politics or the culture behind the skin color. And for you, what yours was changing to a lighter color, which probably is more accepted, or is it, or am
I'm
I just,
laughing.
or is
No,
it that, I mean, what, how would
everything
the Asian community feel about that?
everything you're saying is spot on. Everything you are saying is spot on. And actually, I haven't had this discussion yet, but I went to the beautician a couple of months ago, and I saw this beautician that had this lady I haven't seen for like months. She was off sick, and suddenly I'd seen her after a while. She was doing my nails, and the first thing she said to me, Natasha, honestly, I'm not lying, she said, wow, she's from India, she's a beautician now. She said, oh my God, wow, your skin is looking so beautiful now. And I looked at her and I looked, because obviously my arms are all white now. You can sort of see they're all white. They're
Yeah,
white,
yeah,
white
yeah,
arms.
yeah.
And I just sort of looked at her and I smiled, and she goes, you know, "Kini Sonia, like you look so nice and so beautiful, like now, it's all going one color. It's all going one color, And I couldn't quite understand what she was trying to imply, but I did feel that sense of, oh, like you've got really nice fair skin now,
Yeah,
And
as
I think
opposed,
that,
yeah, yeah, as opposed to
yeah,
being like brown in the past. Yeah.
yeah, or at least having the two colors or three different colors or four different colors as I did in my skin, and she did ask me, have you done anything to really trigger this, to make it go faster, turn faster white? And I haven't touched my skin at all. Like, I would never think about bleaching it or anything like that.
Okay.
But just the way she asked, it made me think that people are ignorant. They are ignorant. They are, some people are traditional, but I don't really blame them for that. That's just their way of, thinking. And you can't change everyone, can you? You can't change everyone's mindset. And I'm not going to sit there over a pedicure or manicure and start telling her about, well, actually, I felt really beautiful before in my brown
Yeah.
skin.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
So like I'm not very familiar with vitiligo. So would eventually you lose all your pigment? And how long
yeah.
would that take? So, and if that happens, would you still identify, would you people still visibly see you as Indian, British, or they would think you're Caucasian? And how would that
Well,
affect you?
two questions here, right, Natasha? We're talking about identity, which I'll come on to in a minute. The first question you asked me was obviously how long it takes for your skin to turn white. Well, everybody's case is unique. everybody's body's unique, and each sort of, you know, their melanin and their stress levels and their daily habits, their daily routine, their food, their diet, all of these things, where they live, it really impacts this condition. And you know, for me, obviously living in London, the weather, it's not so hot here, so I don't get enough a lot of sun exposure. My vitiligo has spread, I would say, at a steady pace.
Okay.
It is still spreading. However, I have noticed something very bizarre happening, which is a repigment of brown melanin coming back under my eye. And it is
Oh,
really bizarre for that to happen, for it to reverse. So you see, the thing is with this condition, it's something that's obviously, nutrition therapists talk about the gut playing a big impact. Stress, nutrition plays a big impact on one's daily life, on one's lifestyle. And I really do believe that's true. I do. I mean, I'm not overly stressed at the moment, but I've got brown pigment coming back, which is really bizarre.
okay.
So it does depend on lifestyle factors, like I said, nutrition, diet, where you live, your body, how it reacts to certain foods, sun exposure, and all of these things. When I go in the sun, if I don't properly sunblock, my vitiligo can spread.
Ah,
So everybody's body is different. And I think, coming to the second part of the question, where you said, will I turn completely white? I just don't know. I mean, my arms have turned completely white. My feet have turned completely white. My chest is completely white. My face, as you can see, has just got patches now. And I don't know how long this will take. But I think for me, I know I'm Indian. I know my cultural heritage, and I'm very strong about that. But I have got a very close friend of mine who is in the book, Goods,
yes, good.
and
Yeah.
she's turned completely white,
I saw
and
the picture. I saw the
she looks
picture.
English. She looks
She
English.
does, yeah.
And if you look at her whole self, like, she looks English. She looks English, not even European, because Europeans are tanned. So it's really bizarre. I think everybody's bodies are different, but she still identifies herself as Indian. I think it's how you feel inside, who you feel, how you feel connected to your culture as well.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
you know, but I do think that if I did turn completely white, I do think I would get that kind of thing where people would think, oh, what is she? What is
yeah,
she? Because even when people realize, oh, she speaks fluent Spanish, and they look at my skin, they get confused.
yeah. That's true.
So I think there's an element of confusion, and I think my skin tone would really, it would just only further add more confusion to that.
True. What about the Indian Asian community, or your family? Like in the book, I know that you were very scared about their reaction, and I sort of wanted to hear more about how they reacted when they found out. How was, were you shunned in the beginning, or were they like, just take me through the process of
Yeah.
sort of like coming out to them.
It's so interesting to see the areas that I could have focused more on as I'm having this discussion with you. Um, so when I came back from Spain, I had my vitiligo. I told my family pretty much immediately, and I think they were just disheartened. They were like, what is that? And I think they were hoping that it was just some kind of, you know, some mark that was left after sun exposure, because you know how hot it gets in Spain. You know what it was like in Madrid. It's just so unbearably hot. And I think maybe they thought that it was over sun exposure that I had, and that it would go. So at the beginning there was an element of kind of confusion, doubt. Oh, you know, maybe it will go. It was only after, I think, about 2 weeks that the realization kicked in that, oh my God, this spot is not going. And even though they covered it up so well. They showed me they weren't overly worried about it, but I know now, being a parent myself, that they were really, really worried, really concerned,
Hmm.
especially because
And how did they find out eventually? Not your parents, but like you say, your aunties and your uncles, and the extended family.
they found out in 2016 when I did a documentary for BBC One called Misfits Like Us. I decided to
That's a long time to hide this from your aunts and
I did.
uncle.
I did. I
So you hit
did
it
on
like
the
for like you hit it for 20 years pretty much.
Yeah, yeah, I did. I did.
Oh wow.
And I mean, it's funny because some cousins say to me, "Well, we knew you had it because we saw that you'd covered up your hands with makeup. We saw that there was kind of like some makeup there, but like everyone was too afraid to say anything to me. No one said
Okay.
anything to me, but they
Okay.
did notice that my skin was covered up. Yeah, they noticed. They just didn't say anything, and I never said anything either. I wasn't comfortable, Natasha, until I lost my dad in 2016, and a lot of things changed for me, and I think mentally I was overcoming some barriers, and I was kind of reaching a different stage in my life. And I think grief really does take you, it really does change you and shape you as a person, and I just became a different person. And I wanted to be free of this because I realized that my dad's life got cut short, and I wanted to be free in my skin. And I realized, why am I hiding my skin when I can do everything I want to do in life?
Yeah, I'm so sorry about your dad. I
Oh,
remember you talking
fine.
fondly of him.
Oh,
And you know, I read about him here in the book, and then I read at the end that he passed away, so I didn't know that. So I'm really sorry. And one thing I wanted to ask, which is in the book you gave up on the treatment. And where do we stand now in terms of the treatment? Because I felt in the book you were not so sure of the person who did the treatment. You felt that it was maybe not 100% effective. And you know, has the medicine developed in the UK or any parts of the world where there is hope for treating it? And or would you actually go back and get treated if there is better treatment, or you're just done with that part in your life, like you're just gonna live with it?
in terms of treatment, because it's classified as a condition that's not life threatening, there will never be any further advances or future or big advances in this area of medicine, because it's not considered as something that's going to, take your life as such, but actually it's just so mentally soul destroying, and physically, mentally, emotionally draining. Like in my book, you'll read about those experiences of finding the new patch and having to deal with that on a day-to-day basis. I mean, like, it was just really hard waking up one day and seeing this white patch just suddenly appear out of nowhere, and you'd be like, that where has that come from? Oh great, that's going to happen on that hand as well, because mine, it was very parallel. It's very simultaneous, that hand and that hand, or that eye or that eye, and you just knew what was coming next. I have done all the treatments that I can out there, and if someone actually said to me, if you said to me now, Natasha, you won't believe what, Jyoti, there is a pill that has just come out by a pharmaceuticals company, one of the best ones, Pfizer, have come
Pfizer,
out with this
yeah.
pill, right?
Yeah.
And you pop it, you literally pop these 2 pills a day, and then a week later you pop another 2, and then a week later you pop another 2, and that is it. Your pigment will all come back. I don't think I'm at that space where I would ever even do that. I won't. I won't do it, because it's taken so long for me to get here where I am. What if those tablets don't work? Well, even if there's 100% guarantee, I'm not going down that route of having to then wait and see results and anticipate and hope and long, only to be disappointed, or only to not get the results I've dreamed of. Or what happens if it's a darker pigment to my normal pigment? What happens if it doesn't meet the promise, and I've kind of gone through that mental torture again? I'm not doing it.
Yeah. I figured. And so the book was for me eye-opening on many levels. And I wonder, are there any other books with like memoir like this that deal with the same issue? Because you know, the vitiligo is so common that I was talking with my mom 2 days ago that, mom, you know, I'm gonna be talking to Joti, my friend from Spain, and we're gonna discuss vitiligo. And she was like, yeah, you know that your uncle who passed away had it. I was like, what? And then I started remembering that when we growing up, I noticed his hands were
Really?
white, different pigments in his hand, but I guess they didn't have a diagnosis. That was a long time ago,
No.
and it was just, nobody kind of paid attention. And maybe because he's a man, it's not a big deal for a man to have, different colors of
Yeah.
skin. If it was a woman, I think it would be a big, at least in our culture.
Yeah.
So for me, it's, and a friend of mine here, I don't know how we brought up the topic, but she's white, and she was like, "I'm not worried about it, because I'm white," and I was like, curious, like I started connecting the dots after
Yeah.
reading your book, and I was like, if you have it,
Yeah.
and how if you had a very fair skin and it actually happened to you, it wouldn't be a big deal, right?
Yeah.
So
You
it's
know what?
only
Someone else. Yeah, absolutely, Natasha. So you've hit the nail on the head. I mean, I think that people deal with it in all different ways, but if you have got fairer skin, it's less obvious, it's less noticeable, and you're less likely to cause attention or bring attention to yourself. And in the documentary I did, for example, The Misfits, there was an English girl who took part, and you couldn't even see her vitiligo. And I remember people putting some criticism on social media after, it's like, what was she doing on it? Because you can't even see her vitiligo. But she
okay.
did struggle with her skin. Like, you can see, parts of her skin where you can see the vitiligo. And I suppose when it comes to sun exposure, everybody, no matter whether you're darker skinned, fair skinned, we've all got to take care of our skin in the sun as well, because we haven't got the melanin in our skin to protect us.
So is part of you, like, how we women, especially, and moms, you always blame ourselves. Do you think part of you blame yourself for, like, sitting outside in the sun in Spain, not putting sunblock? I know this is not right, but you know how
Yeah,
sometimes our mind takes us
yeah,
really, like, crazy locations. Has this ever
yes,
thought?
yes,
It's like, it's all my fault.
100%.
It's all my fault. I brought this to myself.
Only in the earlier days of diagnosis, I thought, what the hell have I done to myself?
Okay.
Only in the earlier days of diagnosis did I think, what have I done? Like, because I didn't use sunblock. I didn't really use sunblock. And I tanned so much that I looked, completely different to what I normally look like, because tan so much and I didn't use sunblock. And I did look back at that time and think, is it me? I wish
Yeah.
I blogged that, actually, but obviously, as I researched and I did some more, research from the online, I realized, no, no, there are so many people out there, young children being diagnosed, and no, this isn't the reason for it.
Yeah, I mean, I know, like, because you explained it's
Yeah,
genetic, but you know
yeah,
how we always, especially
yeah.
women and moms, we always blame ourselves.
Mm,
We can't help it. So now, since your cause, you basically you're full time now dedicated to your business,
yeah,
which is representation.
yeah,
So how do you, what are you aiming for? Are you aiming to change people's perspective, or are you aiming that this awareness would prompt people to find treatment for something that doesn't have treatment? So
yeah.
what would make you feel that you accomplished your goal?
Yeah, so for me, it's always been a case of, I'm here to champion people with visible differences like myself, to be the person that speaks out, to talk about these differences, to talk about this within the community as well, and spread awareness. And I suppose this is what my book is all about. It's about sharing that awareness of, you don't have to shield and hide behind anything, because it's about learning to embrace yourself. So my business is all about that. It's about championing these issues, but bringing it to the focus of the media. That's essentially where I want to get that message out. So that's kind of obviously TV, magazine, radio work, and really kind of bringing that message out. And that's what I've been working on over the last few years, to really highlight the importance of people understanding what vitiligo is, and also for other people who are struggling with a visual difference to also gain a little bit more confidence of being able to come out of their shell.
And I know at the end of the book you said that, because of vitiligo, you had a fulfilled life. You met amazing people. You did amazing things. If you were given the chance and go back in time, would you? And somebody comes and tells you, I'll give you this pill and it will disappear, knowing what you know, would you still decide to have vitiligo or no? Because you
I
know that's because you know now that your life was enriched because of the obstacle that you faced. That the
Mm,
obstacle, like, to quote Ryan Holiday in his book, the obstacle was the way for you to, to reach this, to live this fulfilled life and
yeah.
inspiring life. Would you take
I'd
it back?
never change it. I would never change my life now. I'm so fulfilled. I'm so happy. I still got married. I had children. I've lived a life. I taught in a secondary school for 17 years. I've had a really solid career. I've been very, very fulfilled and blessed in many ways. And I think vitiligo has enhanced that. It's really strengthened me and it's made me so resilient. It's been able to teach my children skills that I would never been able to teach them otherwise. They have such a good understanding of other people's conditions. They aren't the children that will stop and stare at someone if they see a visual difference. They will just walk away or ask me discreetly, Mum, what's that? And unlike if they see someone with vitiligo, they'll be like, oh, look, he's got vitiligo. So I think that it's really enhanced the person I am. It's really changed me. It's made me become a very understanding person, and someone who is really able to identify what people's weaknesses are, and being able to sort of tap in and support them is something that is so rewarding and that means so much to me.
um, are you worried that your kids will get it?
I don't know, like I do sometimes think I don't want them to be overly stressed because it is genetic, but it does skip a generation. So now I've got it, I do worry that their kids could have it. So
Okay.
not necessarily them, but their children. And yeah, it sometimes plays on my mind, but it's a conversation I need to have with the both of them quite soon as well, about stress and stress levels and how to manage stress. It's a conversation I need to have with them in the next year or so, because it's not even just vitiligo, but stress does impact our bodies in so many different ways. I think it's important that we identify what those stress levels are. We identify how to manage our stress. We identify how, if something's stressing us out, okay, what are we going to do about it? Because most of the time it's hidden. We're not identifying what's going on inside our bodies,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's only until something really sad happens we realize, oh my God, it's too late. But we've got to take action. We've got to be able to do that ourselves. Otherwise, you know stress is a horrible thing to do, is a horrible um, factor to have to live with. And I think we've got to learn to manage it, because it isn't just vitiligo, but it can manifest in our bodies in so many different ways.
Yeah. Yeah. And the story of Nev and how you met him was so sweet and so romantic and like so
Oh,
beautiful. And just to see how he like was with you from the beginning. And I feel you're so lucky to find someone like him. And I kept thinking about, what about the other, if you know of other women in the Asian British community, or even in the Asian community or in the Arab community, or any of where skin color is a big deal.
yeah.
Uh, do you think their chances of finding someone like Nev is probable, or Nev is such a unique, exceptional guy that even their chances of finding love and getting married is pretty low because of their condition?
It's hard finding anyone anyway. I mean, I know that some of my friends and family who are still single now, and they don't have a visible condition or anything wrong with them, I'm saying, they're finding it hard to find love, and they don't have anything, visible about them. So I think finding love anyway these days is a lot harder. Finding someone genuine is a lot harder. Finding someone who's on your wavelength is really challenging as well. COVID has only just made it even harder. But I think people are slowly adapting and they are moving forward, and their mindsets are shifting forwards. It is a positive thing. People are getting more awareness, and sometimes these things are becoming, because people understand them better, they're becoming less important. And I would like to think that there are men and women out there who are having a better understanding, and are less judgmental of the opposite sex. However, having said that, however, I know that within the South Asian community, there is a lot of judgment a lot of judgment. And this is still continuing in this day and age. And it's very difficult to find partners based on, you know, height, weight, job, wealth, money, the car you drive. You know, there are so many other factors that kind of come down at the end of this. So I don't know. I mean, it's a really difficult question. I know that from friends and family who are single, it's difficult to find that love and find that person. But equally, I do feel like there is more of an awareness, and people are understanding things a lot better than before, which I hope brings more compassion and empathy when meeting new people. I do believe that there are good people out there who see past those barriers, who see past those differences.
Yeah. And so for Jyoti, what's next? I mean, actually, before we go to what's next, how is your day today like? When, I just want to understand, you know, how are you championing this? What are the avenues that you use in social? Like, do you spend your day like, responding to social media or responding to the press? Or how is your day like as someone who's championing this cause?
So since I left teaching, I've had more time to really focus on positively diverse and expand and grow new leads and connections, which has been amazing. I do a lot of cross promotion on LinkedIn and on Instagram, and I'm sort of learning how to use LinkedIn a little bit better. So I will be kind of coming on board and using that more effectively in the next couple of months off in the new year, just getting to grips with that platform. But it's really about spreading my message across all platforms, on my YouTube, on my Instagram, on Facebook, and just really highlighting the wonderful people that I'm meeting. I've taken part in a couple of in a couple of projects for some TV work, which has been great in the last couple of months. So that's really, really exciting. And I'm just looking forward to really building up my presence and my visibility so that I can, become a little bit more well known in the media industry for someone who is passionate about this topic, about representation and inclusivity, and who has a visible difference, but is still making an impact on a day-to-day life, a day-to-day, in our day-to-day life. So on a day-to-day basis, it's really sort of full of a mix of lots of things. A little bit of my book promotion, a little bit of responding to messages on Instagram, a little bit of responding to press work, taking part in some, in some media campaigns, collaborations. It's a little mix of everything. But I really hope that with time and as I gain more visibility, I'll be able to get a little bit more presenter experience and exposure and push myself that way forwards.
The internet can be a blessing, and it also can be a curse. Have you been bullied online? Got any hate messages? I get them all the time as a journalist, but but that's fine. So have you ever experienced anything like this?
Well, Natasha, touchwood. I think the page is all about representation and being different and embracing ourselves. And touchwood, I haven't received any negative, hurtful comments. But to be honest, if I did, it really would just be water off a duck's back, block and whatever. I'm really not fazed by what people think. I spent 20 years worrying about what people think. I'm not about to do it age 43 of my life, mother of two. I'm not going to do it now. I did it for 20 years. I'm not doing it now. So nothing will ever get to me. It won't.
So I want to backtrack a bit and talk about the BBC documentary. It seemed like a very kind of pivotal moment in your life. How did that documentary on like one of the top I guess news channels in the world change your life?
I was approached by a producer through the Vitiligo Society who asked if I would like to take part in this documentary. I was very apprehensive, very nervous, and I wondered whether this was the right step for me because I hadn't exposed my vitiligo to anyone, let alone my neighbours, let alone colleagues, let alone students. To then go and do this kind of thing was like, and I remember sort of telling my mum at that time, and I don't think she was overly impressed, like, what are you doing? Like, why would you want to talk about this? And why? It was really difficult for the older generation, I think, to understand my reasoning behind it. But I think my reasoning has always been a very positive, a positive one, and that's to create a bigger impact and awareness for people to understand the condition. And had I have not done that, Natasha, you know, I would have not created any awareness within my own community or my circle of friends or my circle of people that I know. You know, I would have kept it hidden. And what would that have proven? Just someone who's embarrassed about her skin, or she hasn't quite come to terms with it. And there's nothing to be ashamed about. So misfits like us really did allow me to voice what I think and not be afraid to sort of speak my mind, knowing that I didn't have to confront anyone afterwards because it was all on there.
So, what does the future hold for Positively Diverse and for Jyoti?
I want to spread my wings and fly, Natasha. I just want to be able to carry on doing the work that I'm doing, really kind of like take on some more sort of presenter-like roles as well, and really champion, like I said, people who've got visible differences and talk about this within our society and how it impacts people on a day-to-day basis, and really kind of normalize this whole, you know, stigma attached to looking different. And I want to be the presenter with a visible difference who is able to champion these issues in a real positive spin. Someone who, I am different, I'm South Asian, so it'd be lovely to be able to push this this avenue forward, and be able to excel in this area of work that I love doing. And you know, in terms of Positively Diverse, I am going to be doing a little bit more work in schools. I miss the school environment. I would like to do some collaborations, or going in and working in schools and do some workshops and some motivational talks. So that's in the pipeline. And just meeting, networking with people, growing my organization, perhaps having a small team behind me one day would be great. And just really just taking each day as it comes.
Yeah, and I was just thinking after reading your book, so you no longer want to cover your face with makeup. You're done with that
No.
phase.
Yeah, yeah.
And how freeing is that? And when you go outside without makeup.
Oh, Natasha, it's so liberating. It's so liberating, like walking the dog, or just going out with my bare skin and feeling that fresh air on my face, and knowing that the makeup's not rubbing off on my jacket because it's freezing and I've got a scarf, and knowing I'm not going to have a layer of makeup there, and just being free in my skin and letting people just see my skin. It's just such a relief. It's such a relief. And I do get the odd stare now and again, I'm not going to lie, particularly from children who will
From
just
children, yeah.
gawp. Yeah, more so from children. But I think adults are starting to see it more and more. I'm starting to see a lot more people with birthmarks and spots and psoriasis. They're not covering up their skin, and I just feel like, is this a way forward? I remember once being stopped in London, and this woman said to me, she was staring at my feet for ages, and I was really getting upset. And I thought, she's really getting upset. And she actually just stopped and said, my God, what beautiful shoes. And I was just like, I just was really confused. I thought she was like, I thought she was taking the mickey, you know, but she was dead serious. And she was like, oh, you know, I would like to know, if you don't mind me asking, where you got them from, when you got them, you know, because I really like them. They look very nice on you. And all the whole time, the 7 stops that we were on, I thought she was staring at my vitiligo on my feet because they're covered with makeup. And I thought
Yeah.
she was looking, and it was just, you know, little examples like this is just like, you know, everyone's looking at every attention on your detail. Everyone's looking at that. Not everybody's looking at that, you know, absolute detail on your
Yeah.
face, on your skin, on your hands. Maybe someone's just admiring your earrings, you know, I mean,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
just now, it's just, it doesn't bother me at all.
Yeah. And
And if
you're
someone looks, I like to lift my sleeve and let them have a better look now, you know. It's such a good feeling, you know, sometimes, even on a winter's day, just
I
take off the
know.
jacket, roll the sleeve, and let them have a good look, you know, because I think sometimes people are curious, and sometimes when they realize they're staring, they realize, oh gosh, that's the wrong thing to do. I need to be a bit subtle about this.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I do humor this now. I mean, I do entertain vitiligo now more, whereas before I was,
Before, yeah.
yeah,
You're
just
very
it's just
pretty,
serious.
by the way. You have not aged at all, by the way. You've aged at all, by the way. You
Oh,
still look the same.
oh, Natasha, you're very kind. You're very,
No,
very kind,
that's true.
very
I
sweet.
mean, like, I can't believe I met you 30 years ago, and it feels like we're still back in Madrid. 15, yeah, you're 15, I'm 18,
Oh, I
singing in the
mean,
streets, if you remember.
oh, we had a wonderful time,
It
a
is.
wonderful time. And I'm just so grateful we have the opportunity to reconnect. And I can see all the amazing work you're doing as well. I think that you're just doing such fantastic work. You've had such an amazing career as well. I'm inspired by you as well, Natasha.
Thank you,
Um,
appreciate it.
I think that you've just done some amazing things. I admire your journey, your career journey, your career path, and what you've achieved as well. So
Thank you very much, Jyoti, for coming to the channel and talking to me and hearing about your journey. I hope who's watching the channel gets inspired, and please buy the book. It's amazing. It's on Amazon. I got it like in 2 days. I just ordered it. It came very quickly. Please get
as
the
a Kindle
book,
too.
and it's on Kindle. And make
Yeah.
sure to connect with Jyoti on Instagram at Positively Diverse. Her website is amazing. I checked her website as well. So please make sure to read the book. I loved it. As I said, I finished it in 1 day.
Thanks,
Amazing work.
Natasha. And I just, if anyone's got any questions about the book or about my journey or about the work I'm doing, just pop it underneath Natasha's comments, and I'll reply to any of you that have anything that you want to ask. Don't feel embarrassed. I think it's really important to ask questions sometimes if in doubt.
Thank you very much, Jyoti. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Natasha, for having me on.